Back in 2005, my two friends and I went to the mall one night to do what 12 and 13-year-olds did on the weekends back then. I'm sure this was just about the age when you weren't cool unless you had a crappy knockoff Dooney & purse. Mishka Barton was still relevant, and the collective angst of millions of misunderstood suburban children was just beginning to galvanize the scene subculture. I could still hear Fall Out Boy in the background. While roaming around the mall enjoying our few hours of freedom, we were just about to head into Forever 21 when we were approached by two men. The manner in which they approached us was direct, almost a beeline, and they were smiling. The first thing I noticed was that they looked older, somewhere in their mid-30s, but they dressed like high schoolers, with puka shell necklaces, Abercrombie and Fitch shirts, and spiky hair. It's funny how we can remember the most insignificant of details. I was surprised because, being small, skinny, and very obviously underage, very obviously still a child to normal people, men did not approach us out and about. They introduced themselves. We'll call them Blonde Guy and Brunette Guy because I don't remember their names. Neither of them ever broke their smiles, but they weren't natural. They looked forced. From what I can remember, the conversation went something like this. "We were wondering if you ladies wanted to come to a party with us," the blonde guy asked. The brunette guy remained quiet throughout this entire conversation. "No thanks, my friend Laura says." I stand there silent while my other friend, Kaylee, acts interested. "The party isn't too far from here and we have a car. You guys should come with us. It would be a lot of fun." "How old are you?" the blonde guy asked. The scripted, over-enthusiastic way he spoke to me put me on edge. Hoping to deter them from talking to us any further, both Laura and I said we were 12, while Kaylee said she was 15. In retrospect, she was about as sharp as a marble in even the simplest situations. But then the blonde guy got pushier and kept trying to convince us to leave with them. "No, we are really good with not going. My mom's coming to pick us up soon," Laura says again. The blonde guy kept persisting. "Oh, your mom doesn't have to know. We'll have you back before she gets here. You won't get in trouble or anything." I do remember thinking this made no sense. Kaylee kept engaging with him, and he kept persisting, but she finally said no too. And then he looks directly at me. I still remember his exact words, because something about the way he said them made me feel queasy. Still smiling but quieter now, he responds, "Oh, don't be shy, no one will notice. No one will find out." Laura again declined and I finally mumbled something like no, and we hurried away. I remember going into Forever 21 and looking back for a second to see if they were following us. They were standing there still, but blonde guy was now talking on his phone and glancing over. We spent some more time in the store, and by the time we left, they were gone. At the time, I thought it was creepy, but I gave it little thought. But now that I'm an adult, everything about that situation screams kidnapping, or something along those lines. And the saddest part is, we were in a mall with hundreds of people walking around, but no one was paying any attention. Had we really been so naive as to leave with them, there's a very good chance that no one would have noticed, and no one would have ever found out. Okay, so this is a story about the strangest birthday I've ever had. For context, I'm from Germany and the legal age to drink here is 16 for beer and wine, and 18 for liquor. So, on the day that I turned 18, me and my best friend decided to go out to our nearest city to grab some drinks at the local bar. It's pretty popular. But since it was a Tuesday night, on school summer break, there weren't that many people around. So, we just enjoyed spending time together, meanwhile sipping on margaritas. All of a sudden, the waitress, who I actually kind of knew because she previously graduated from the school that I went to, comes up to us, saying 2 men want to buy us a drink, pointing at a table at the other end of the outdoor section. At the time, it was around 10 p.m., and even though it was midsummer, it was starting to get dark, so we didn't really see what the guys looked like at first. We just thought, yeah, why not, and went over to thank them. At this time, I recognized that they were younger-looking guys, in their early 20s, mid-20s max, and a middle-aged man that was obviously already intoxicated. The younger guy, let's call him Tom, asked us to take a seat, and since he seemed like a nice guy that wanted to chat, we agreed. So, as we were talking, getting to know each other a bit, I noticed the older guy intensely staring at me, like he didn't even blink. I looked at him as I noticed him, and it was then that he said, "How old are you? You're so beautiful. Do you even know how beautiful you are?" I told him that I had just turned 18 and laughed it off, clearly being uncomfortable, and I thanked him for the compliment, since I knew that he was clearly drunk, and I tried to change the topic. As we were talking about life in general, Tom tells us that the older guy is actually his neighbor, who is currently going through a divorce, and so he wanted to distract him with a night out. And we thought that it was sweet of him to help this guy going through a hard time. And then he mentions that his neighbor is an architect, encouraging him to maybe talk about his interesting profession rather than creeping on a young girl, because at this point he was constantly interrupting our conversation to tell me inappropriate things. And then the conversation turned dark real quick, and the guy started to talk about how he doesn't seem to have any sense in life anymore, and that he wanted to end himself. I also struggled with a lot of depression since I was a kid, so I wasn't super freaked out. I was more like feeling sad for the guy and tried to calm him down a little bit, while texting my best friend that was seated next to me, and how we could maybe get out of this situation. But then he said, "I can't, I just want to end it. I could do it right now," threatening his life, kind of begging us to tell him a reason to not do it right in front of us. Tom at this point just started to apologize and to calm him down, but it didn't really work. I mean, I felt sad for the guy. We maybe had just met him an hour and a half ago, and you never know what an intoxicated man that claims he has nothing to lose is really capable of. Me and my best friend, being scared now, come up with a plan over text to fake call some male friend of ours that we wanted to meet up. So, she changed my name in her phone quickly to a guy's name, and so I called her, while hiding my phone in the pocket of my vest. And let me tell you, my friend performed the most realistic fake phone call I've ever witnessed. So good actually that, for a moment I was like, wait, is she really calling me, or did she find a different friend to call? At that point, the man is just begging us not to go, making us even more uncomfortable. So, we just apologized ourselves, and as we were about to leave, Tom asked for my number. I wanted to leave quickly, so I just gave it to him, which he called immediately to make sure that it was legit, of course. But I blocked him right after he had texted me. If you ever read this, Tom, I'm sorry. You really seemed like a sweet dude, but this night was just not it, Chief. And me and my best friend still kind of joke about it until this day, how quickly it went from 0 to 100 that night, and how we were definitely not prepared for it. Nothing happened to us that night, but it was still frightening nonetheless. A longtime reader and first-time poster. This might not be written in the best grammar, so please forgive me. This story takes place back in April of 2018. I live on Long Island, and I was in my freshman year of high school. I was going through a tough time. Earlier in the week, my girlfriend had broke up with me because of rumors she had heard about me, which I won't share here. There was a lot of drama going around my life at this point. Depression, broken hearts, you know, typical high school BS. My mom knew that I was down in the dumps, so one night, she took me to get a new phone in the nearby mall. We were gone for about an hour, and we returned home with my dog greeting us. And let me tell you something about my dog. He's a short, stocky golden retriever who's never violent or vicious in any way. This is important for later. My dad was still at work, so it was my duty to take out the trash. I went through the front door with my dog resting on the porch, and went to the side of my house to throw out the trash. When I was throwing the bag, I looked over to my neighbor's house where I saw a guy dressed in all black around 6 foot, walking out of their side door. Being a paranoid 14-year-old, I had so many red flags going off. Let me tell you something about my neighbors and my neighborhood. I live in a safe neighborhood, but not 15 minutes away from walking distance. We live by a town that has a high crime rate, ranging from muggings to drug dealing, and even murders from time to time. My neighbors, on the other hand, have an older stepson who drag races in that part of town. So, for some stupid reason, I wasn't in the fight or flight mode yet because I was assuming it could be one of his friends. It's stupid of me, I know. Until there was another man and then another. There were 6 guys dressed in all black coming out of the house and from the backyard. And then I knew what was going on, so I tried walking away as I saw nothing. When I was on my driveway, I saw 2 of the 6 guys slowly moving toward me. My blood went cold within a second as they were getting close. My dog went running off the porch, chasing these 6 men down the street into the night. My dog came back and was still standing on my driveway trying to process what I just saw. I went back inside with my mom asking me what had just happened. I told her what I just saw, with the 6 men coming out of the neighbor's house and heading towards me. We called the police and they came over to ask me questions. I described the men as best as I could. The police told us we're not the first to experience this, as there were 7 burglaries all over town at the time, and I probably witnessed them attempting to break in. I told the officers about 2 out of these 6 guys walking toward me after I saw them. They told me that, since I saw them, they were trying to stop a possible witness. That was basically a friendly way of them saying that the burglars were going to kill me since I saw what they were doing. As typical as this could get, the best they could do was a police report. I was always afraid of break-ins, but I never thought I would experience one. To this day, I'm still surprised at how my harmless golden retriever saved my life that night, and showed me that no matter where you are in this world, this could happen anywhere. 4 years have gone by. My family now has a gun, and I'm currently training in kickboxing for self-defense. To the 6 men who tried to break into my neighbors, I hope I don't see you again. Over the summer, I took a long solo trip to China. I was staying in the capital, which was super tourist friendly, so I was really comfortable getting about on my own, sightseeing, etc. One day, I was heading somewhere. I can't quite remember where anymore, and I came across this amazing huge park. It had a little river running through it and loads of flowers and trees. It was honestly huge. One little place near the back had actual playground equipment, like monkey bars and seesaws and stuff. In China, most parks had workout equipment too, and there were a bunch of old people working out while their grandkids were playing around. I tried using one piece of equipment as I thought it was confident in what it did and how to use it. I was not. I sat there so confused, and an old woman saw this and sat in the exact same one to my right and started demonstrating how to use it because she couldn't explain it to me in English. It was the cutest thing. The whole park was a very cute and wholesome place, or so I thought. I loved the park so much that I decided to go back just before I left. The rest of the park was very beautiful, but I loved the little playground part, so I headed straight there. The first time I was there, it was quite empty, which I liked, but this time it was very, very crowded. I decided to not hang about as most of the equipment was already taken, so I just walked straight through. As I was walking through, I felt a pair of eyes on me, so naturally, I turned my head in that direction. There was a guy a couple of feet from me just watching me as I was walking out of the park. He looked to be in his early 20s and harmless. Again, I was wrong. I ignored the gaze, turned back around and kept walking. The whole surrounding area was pretty empty due to how enormous this park was. So, there was no one around, but I could hear footsteps behind me. I didn't turn around to check, but instead, I just quickened my pace as I had a bad feeling about being in this deserted area. When I heard a hello, which could have only been directed at me, because there was no one else around, I turned around and saw the guy from the park. I was in no mood to try to entertain this guy who was following me, so I turned back around and started walking even faster, in towards where I knew there would be other people. And then I hear him start running. He catches up to me and starts speaking in Chinese. Of course, I can't understand him, and I speak next to no Chinese, so I tell him in English, "I don't understand you." He keeps saying something over and over in which I couldn't understand, so I just started to try and walk away from him. But he grabs my arm really hard to try to keep me there. I looked at him with a facial expression to say, "What the heck are you doing?" And I yank my arm away. I'm practically running away from him now when he grabs my backpack and pulls me back. Just then, a family came into view, and as soon as the people appeared, he let go of me. I ran straight past the family and kept going until I found a bench to sit on to pull myself together. I made sure that there were other people nearby and that he wasn't following me anymore. I then pulled out Google Translate to try to figure out what the phrase he was kept saying to me over and over. I don't think I'll ever forget it or the expression on his face. It turns out that he was telling me, "It's okay," over and over while trying to attack me. I have no idea what would have happened if that family didn't appear, and I'm so glad I didn't find out. This year, my favorite cousin was getting married in Canada. My trip involved a layover in China where I was provided hotel and accommodation. At this point in the year, it was super hot in China. The problem was the AC wasn't working, along with all the electronics. I called the front desk to tell them of this problem, and one of their employees was sent up to try and fix the problem, but to no avail. After 30 minutes, I told him it's fine and I just wanted him to go because I had been exhausted from all the traveling and the lack of sleep. Fast forward to some point in the night, I woke up, which isn't that uncommon for me, but I heard something. In my dazed state, I saw someone at the end of my bed sitting. At first, I thought it was my cousin, and I told him that he could sleep on the couch, but then it hit me. At the end of my bed was that same man who was sent up to fix the power in my room. He was just sitting and undressing himself. At first, I couldn't say or do anything. I just thought in my head, this is what happens to solo travelers, and I prepared myself for the worst, but then I thought, screw this, and I screamed my heart out. The man got startled and ran away. I ran up to lock the doors but thought it was pointless since this guy probably had a key and could get back into my room anyway. I ended up spending the rest of the night awake, just staring at the door. When morning hit, I tried to tell the front desk about it, but there was a huge language barrier, plus my crying didn't really help. And then I noticed the guy who was in my room in the background, and I started shouting and pointing at him. They still couldn't really understand, and in the end, all they could tell me was sorry, and that he was drunk and thought it was his room.